Today on Upfront, uproar on campus. Faculty at 5 UW campuses say they have no confidence in the president and Board of Regents. UW System President Ray Cross responds next on Upfront. Then the motorcycle riding tattooed businessman hoping to boot the Speaker of the House. I'll ask Paul Nealon if he can really unseat Paul Ryan in a primary challenge.
Covering the issues important to Wisconsin. This is Upfront with Mike Goucher.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Upfront. We begin today with the uproar on some University of Wisconsin campuses and the system's response. In the past 2 weeks, faculty senates at 5 UW campuses, Madison, Milwaukee, Green Bay, La Crosse, and River Falls, have passed resolutions saying they have no confidence in System President Ray Cross and the Board of Regents. Faculty members are unhappy over recent budget cuts and changes made to tenure.
Trying to send a message to our system leaders and to the people of Wisconsin that we think the UW system is on the wrong course. And we need to find new ways of advocating for funding for the system. This is crucial for student success. It's crucial for affordability and access to the UW system.
Governor Walker fired back at the faculty on Twitter in one of a series of tweets. He said, "The UW system currently has its largest overall budget ever. Faculty resolutions really not about budget or tuition. They're about tenure." We're talking about all of this today with UW System President Ray Cross. President Cross, good to have you back on the program.
Thanks, Mike. It's nice to be here.
So what's your reaction to the no confidence votes? Do faculty members around the state saying they don't have any confidence in the way you're doing your job?
Well, I understand their frustrations and their anger and their fear. I understand that. At the same time, it exposes, I think, a lack of understanding of what we did accomplish, what we have done. And let me speak to some of that. The original budget cut was about $351 million, Mike. By the time you add all of those things that weren't identified in the beginning, we got that down to $250 and then down to $200 ultimately. So that was a savings of about $151 million. We think that's a pretty significant change. Now, I would have preferred to have gotten an increase rather than a cut, don't get me wrong. But that was a significant change. In addition, we got some flexibilities like the flexibility for merit pay, et cetera. We didn't have that before. And there are other flexibilities we achieved. So we got some of those. The concern about tenure, that would have been taken completely out of language. It was taken completely out of language and would have been replaced with something the legislature wrote. I think we worked with faculty to do the best we could to write something that we could live with, that was comparable to our peers, University of Michigan, University of Maryland, California, Utah. I could go on and on here.
So when you see a newspaper editorial, for instance, saying you have been a weak advocate for the UW system and its students, you say?
I say I've been a different advocate. I'm trying to work with leaders, with decision makers behind the scenes. And why am I doing that? I think hurling insults and ad hominems across the table at other folks or from a distance, it removes you from the discussion that needs to take place while you're working on the budget or while you're having conversations about the importance or value of the university. So that's been my style. That's been the way I've worked. I think we have to do more publicly. I accept that criticism. I really do. I think we're going to try to do more publicly.
Do you think the no confidence votes affect your ability to do your job? I mean, are you able to function effectively given the fact that many faculty in the state and the university campuses simply don't feel you're doing your job?
Well, clearly, I'm steady going forward. We're going to do this. We're going to work hard on the next biennial budget. It does hamper that because it's really important. This war of words between parties, between the faculty and the legislature
and the governor.
This war of words is not advancing the university. The state of Wisconsin badly needs the university in order to prepare it for the future. That's part of our challenge. I'm committed to doing that. I need the faculty, I need the staff, I need the students to work with us to do that. It needs to be a collaborative effort.
You say this war of words is not advancing the university. Is it effectively hurting the university? Is it having an impact on the people who are either attracted to the university or people you're trying to retain at the university?
Yes, it does.
It is having an impact.
Absolutely, it has an impact. It cannot help but have an impact. What I'm trying to do is assure people we're working very hard to retain faculty. We'll get through this. The future is actually much brighter. The challenges we face now often are a result of a lack of understanding of what's really going on and how to engage. I keep telling faculty, don't disengage. This is not the time to disengage. Stay engaged, be civil, be respectful. Let's work our way through this. We can change this. We have to convince the people of Wisconsin, not just the legislators, the decision makers. We have to convince the people that this is the right thing to do and we're needed.
I want to ask you about something that was reported by the Capital Times last week. It's about an email that you sent to the Vice President of the Board of Regents back in March. And in that email, you made a comparison or an analogy between railroad brakemen and faculty members, and essentially saying that railroad brakemen, there came a point in time where their jobs were no longer necessary, but they still had them. Job for life. Do you believe that faculty members view their jobs as jobs for life rather than viewing tenure, for instance, as giving them the freedom to search for truth or prevent any sort of retribution for research or writings they've done?
No. Let me be clear. I don't believe anybody on the board or I don't believe any faculty or, for that matter, influencers within the university. We don't believe this is a job for life. But a large portion of the public actually believes that.
So it's a public perception, not your perception,
not mine at all.
Perception.
I'm a very strong defender of tenure. What happens when you start to conflate those terms, the reasons for tenure and the importance for tenure in the academy, when you conflate that with traditional labor terms, it weakens our argument. The tenure is different. You earn tenure after 7 years. It's a difficult process. Talk to any faculty member who's gone through it, including me. That is a difficult process. You are awarded tenure because of that, and you retain tenure by continued performance. So from my perspective, tenure is really important. It is, however, important that we also have the latitude to make changes. Otherwise, we'd still be teaching buggy whip production or something. I'm making another poor metaphor here, Mike. But how do you do that? We have traditionally closed two programs every time we bring 5 on. We've closed 2. Did we lay off faculty? No. We found other positions for them within the university. Why? How? Well, we did that because they have skills over here or knowledge or expertise. We've actually paid for the retraining of faculty. So it's important in this process of program discontinuance that everybody understand we have done this for a long time without laying off faculty. We have to have some flexibility here. It's important. But we're going to continue to do the same things we've always done to protect faculty and to protect tenure.
So faculty who may be nervous about programs being discontinued or feel like the university is moving in a direction where it's simply trying to meet employer workforce needs, you say to those faculty members they shouldn't be worried or they should be worried?
They shouldn't be. And the reason they shouldn't be worried, we all are worried about the future. That's a concern and an anxiety. But no one is going to make an arbitrary decision to just close a program or to do that because, gee, we don't have the need for that. We are comprehensive, multi-campuses. This university is a major institution in this state, and it must serve a whole array of needs. I sympathize with faculty and I understand their concerns, but much of that is predicated on their fears, not on substance.
University of Wisconsin System President Ray Cross, it's good to have you back on the program. We appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
Coming up next on Up Front, House Speaker Paul Ryan's primary challenger, Republican challenger. A new poll shows him down by a big margin. So why does Paul Nealon think the time is right for an upset? That's when Up Front continues.
Up Front with Mike Goucher, brought to you by the American Transmission Company and the Wisconsin Corn Growers Association.